Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So the next sequel that we're going to be covering is our first Don the Dragon Wilson sequel, Bloodfist V. And I gotta say, this movie, me and Jamie just got done doing our review. So many M. Night Shyamalan twists. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to our review and either watch the movie before or after because, wow. So much happens in that movie, and I hope you agree with us. And I still can't get over it. It is like my brain exploded. It's on the ground. I'm picking pieces up because so much was going on in it, and it was just so clever. And for it, I chatted with one of the stars. I always love talking to anybody that works on a movie, behind the camera, in front of the camera, no matter what. But it's always cool to see somebody that's pretty much in every scene in the movie. And that's the amazing actress, Denice Duff. Denice plays Candice and Michelle. I know at this point you're probably like, wait, two characters? Watch the movie and you'll know why I say that. But yeah, she's so great in this flick. Just so many one-liners she has throughout the movie. So much fun. But I love hearing about her career. You know, her journey from Long Island, Hollywood. Her parents picked up. They moved out to LA when she was pretty young. And then we talked about her photography. I love the story of her getting her first big role. She's on TV. She's getting phone calls from her friends and family back in Long Island, which is pretty cool. We talked about the difference between working with Charles Band and Roger Corman, because she worked with both when she was doing all those Subspecies movies, and then with Roger Corman on Bloodfist V. Lou Ferrigno, some amazing stories about him. Luke Perry and what they have in common. Audition tips. Her time on Young and the Restless. And you got to check out her new movie. She's in Subspecies V. Everybody's back for that one. She talks a lot about her buddy Kevin Spiritus, who we talked to a few weeks back. But so much fun. Great chat. Do me a favor, if you're new here, please subscribe, like, share, follow. Anything you can do. You can even climb to a rooftop, shout, the good, the bad, and the sequel. Well, you don't have to do that. I don't want you to get hurt. But just follow us on Sequels Only. At Sequels Only, social media. Drop us a line. Doug@sequelsonly.com. My email. However you want to do it. Just do whatever. Tell anyone. So without further ado, here is the amazing Denice Duff. Now I just like to let people know, because I don't know who I was interviewing, and I was looking at some of your pictures like on your website, like headshot wise, like Tiny Lister. That was cool. You got shots of him. There's a lot of familiar faces. How'd you end up getting those people? Was that just from, did you work with any of them, or you were just doing that out in LA?
Word of mouth, because I'm a good photographer and I'm easy to work with, and I'm a good laugh. I'm a good time.
Nice.
So, and Sean Hayes. I
saw that Emmy winner. Sean, yeah. I know, Tony Award winning now
as of recently. Yep.
Wild.
People. It's just word of mouth, and it's such a people thing, photographing someone, and you've got to be vain enough to know the pain of what it's like to be on the other side of the camera, to really take great care of them lighting and angle wise. And I painfully understand that other side.
And I think that's what's cool about when people do that. It's like, if somebody's running a restaurant, you hope they did all the jobs in the restaurant beforehand so they know what the workers are doing. I think the same thing with you. Like, it's cool that you mentioned that, you've been on the other side, which is one thing. And then also, like, when you did a little bit of directing, like when you're directing someone, it's great. Right?
Totally. Yeah. It's so funny you said that. I feel like every actor should direct a small film at some point in their career, because then they'll lay off themselves. They'll give themselves less of a hard time, because like you don't realize that the director doesn't have time to coddle you so much because they have so many things on their plate. And you just understand the big picture more. And I also think everyone should like wait tables for at least a month so you understand that profession.
Yes, and you respect them when you go out. My mom was a waitress growing up, so I have like an extra amount of respect for people that do that. But so we were talking about a little bit. So you grew up in New York City. What part?
Well, I was born in Long Island, and
nice.
Beth Page. to be specific. And my mom and dad moved to Los Angeles when I was 6. So I basically, from 6 years old on up, was raised in Los Angeles. I would go back to New York every summer until I was 19. And then I went to NYU when I was 20. And I majored at the Tisch School of the Arts, directing and photography. And just did a year and a half there, and took off to Italy for a bit, did some modeling in Milan, and then came back to Los Angeles, got a waitressing job, met my boyfriend there, who I've been married to ever since, and
oh wow,
started acting. Was on like a little bit part on that soap opera called Santa Barbara.
Okay.
Ago, and was working with photographers as a makeup artist for extra cash in my early 20s, and would deliver proof sheets to agencies, and the agencies would be like, hey, do you have an agent? Do you have an agent? So I was able to get an agent by getting in the door. Yeah, I got myself this cool manager named Jay Bernstein, who had discovered Farrah Fawcett and Linda Evans and Suzanne Summers, and he did this whole talent search thing, and he took me on and brought me the William Morris Agency. And I started getting, you get better scripts when you're with a better team. And although better, I don't know what better means, but
yeah. How'd you end up connecting with him? Was it just going around, or you said he does like a star search? Is that how he found you?
It was, I was in an acting class, and the acting class got called because they needed interns. And, to answer the phone, and they figured it would be nice to have actors. And so my acting teacher said, you got to go. He's going to notice you. And I'm like, he likes blondes. They'll never pick me. And he's like, you're going, or I'm kicking you out of the class, or doubling your tuition. So I went and I answered phones, and they did this talent search for like 3 weeks, and they would give people callbacks. And on one of the callbacks, the girl wasn't there. And so one of the judges, like Sally Kirkland, was a judge.
Nice.
Robert Forrester, like some of these old Hollywood people that were friends of this manager. And they brought me in to do a callback with this guy. And it was a scene from a Tennessee Williams play. And so I did the scene with the actor, and then the actor left the room, and I started to leave, and they said, whoa, intern, come back here. And they sat me down, and they were like, so what did you think about that guy? And I'm like, oh, he was cool. He was cute. And they're like, no, but did you feel a connection? I'm like, I don't know. I felt he was a little nervous around me. And they were like, excellent. We thought that too. Now tell us about yourself. And
wow.
Anyway, and then as I left the room, a woman came out and she goes, we don't want you answering the phone anymore. You're in this race. So I wound up, it got narrowed down to me and 2 other guys, and he repped us all. And out of, I guess he saw like 2,000 people, but he had about 10,000 submitted. Like in Hollywood story.
Yeah, no, that's how they all are. Like, from all the people I've interviewed, I've been doing this for like 4.5 years now. No matter who, it's always something like that. It's never like, and I think this from the beginning, like getting into this game. And growing up around LA, I'm sure you talk to other people and you hear like, oh my God, it's so hard, which it is. It's a hard thing to do, but that's how you get it. It's never like, yeah, I wanted to be an actor and I just showed up and I got the job. There's always like something, the right place, the right moment, seizing an opportunity that you had. One question I have to have is, so what'd your parents come out to LA for? Anything Hollywood related, or just work sent them out here?
My mom, she actually wanted to be an actress, right?
Really?
She wanted to be an artist. She wanted to just sort of leave. She just felt like she was too close to the family. She wanted to be independent. She wanted to be an actress, really, and wound up actually never being able to get past the headshot session for nerves.
Wow.
And then my parents got divorced within 4 years after moving here. So she was a single mom raising 2 kids. And my dad came back to New York. And so she, and so it was tough. She couldn't take me on auditions because it's an interesting thing. You actually have to be a little bit upper middle class to be a child actor. So when you see these kids on TV, it's rare that they're coming from broke ass families,
Yeah.
because and though the only reason I may take that back a bit is because now a lot of auditions can be done on video.
Yeah.
But like that's only in the last couple of years. But prior to that, you have to drive, and auditions come at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And if two parents are working their butt off, they can't stop and get in the car and drive from Burbank down to Santa Monica to audition their kid for a Taco Bell commercial.
Yeah.
They don't just give it away, and they don't just audition on the weekends. So it's a real, you've got to have the whole family has to be in on this. Your parents have to really be a part of it. And unfortunately, my mom couldn't because she worked two jobs. So it wasn't until, I was one of those kids at 16 and a half, got my license, would drive her to work at her night job, and then I would have the car to do auditions with for myself.
Wow. Now, if I've talked to people, I've talked to a few child stars, like Stanley Livingston. He was in stuff pretty young, and his whole family was acting. Like his brother Barry ended up being on My Three Sons. He was like the fourth son. And then like Patrick Laberto, he was telling me his sister was an actress. She was a little bit older than him, but he said like after school, other kids would be like going to baseball or something. And he's like, my mom's taking audition out in the middle of nowhere.
It really is. I mean, I brought my daughter into the business a bit, and it was such a nightmare because I'd pick her up from school, and she's 9 years old, and we're in the car, and I'm driving, and I'm trying to put a barrette in her hair, and she doesn't want it. I'm trying to take the peanut butter out of the shirt, and you're on the freeway for 2 hours. And then you just want to do anything to make them happy at the end. You want McDonald's? I know it's the Antichrist, but let's go to McDonald's,
Yeah.
So the kids have to really want it. And the kids usually do. I actually wrote something in the Huffington Post about quote unquote stage moms. And I wrote a whole article because I'd photographed so many actors and young actors. And these kids, they really want to do it. And literally the parents, the moment the kid says, I'm done, they'd be so happy to have their nights back at home with the rest of their family and not stuck on the freeway or helping the kid memorize lines. And but they just get this bad name of stage mom. And I compared it to Eli and Peyton Manning's dad, and that no one would ever call Eli or Peyton Manning's dad a stage dad. But that dad had to apply some discipline to have not one but two boys.
Oh, yeah.
Get a position that is the most coveted position like in the world. That wasn't a dad saying, sleep in here, have a Snickers,
Yeah.
Like but the stage mom thing kind of became, but no, most of these kids, they really want to do it, and then they can fizzle out on their own, but you do need a parent to help.
From you winning the Star Search, from you getting that, and they say, hey, you know what? You're not answering phones anymore.
Right.
What was like the first step after that? Was it like doing commercials, or were they putting you on to like auditions right away?
Well, I had been going on auditions, and I had done that little part on Santa Barbara, and that was for commissions. I had an agent. So I was going out on stuff, but it got elevated because then I went to the William Morris agency. So I just, and I had to work with that manager to leave the other ones. I felt so bad. And he's like, look, it's show business. That's what it's called. It's called show business. It's going to be okay. What does he like to drink? I'm like, what, you find out his favorite booze. You show up to his office, you tell him you love him. Here's $100 bottle of booze, and you move on. You keep your nose as clean as you can, but it's a business, and we can get very emotional, and we want our team to be the coolest, nicest, but really you want your team to be the most effective and be with people whose phone calls get answered.
Yeah.
And that's where he was bringing me, and he really sort of taught me that. So yeah, it brought me to the William Morris agency. And I remembered I met with the head of the agency. I forgot his name at this point, an old man, a lovely human. And this was like 1992, just before I did Subspecies. And he had a headshot in his office of this budding, fantastic actress who just finished a film called Cape Fear, named Juliette Lewis.
Nice.
And I know her, and her father and her brother, they're just wacky and wonderful. And he just said, like, this is what we cultivate here at the, anyway, they just, I was alphabetically on the list between, God, it was Donna Dixon and trying to remember who else that my agent, because every agent has their staff, but I remembered I was just below Donna Dixon and above, I forgot who the other actress was. Anyway.
But Julia Lewis, that's pretty cool. Sometimes, especially with the internet nowadays, I think we were watching Yellow Jackets, and I went on her IMDb or her Wikipedia, and then I saw a thing about her dad, and I'm like, oh, her dad's from New Jersey. He grew up, I don't know if he was born in the same hospital as me, but he was born in the same town I was born in. But that was like pretty amazing. Like, he was like a Jersey guy, and then he went out there too. But she's unreal. Like, you really think about her, man. She's
unreal,
crazy good, and crazy. She's one that you never heard about her being like a teen wild, like being wild as a teen. But I watched this reunion with Christmas Vacation and Jonathan Lipnicki. Not Jonathan Lipnicki. What's his name? Jonathan Getz? The guy from Big Bang Theory. Jonathan Galecki. There's like there's like a million actors with that same kind of like cadence of their name.
The name.
Yeah. But Jonathan Galecki, he had, during the reunion, this is probably only like 10 years ago, he was like, yeah, while I was going to bed, she was going out to party with the crew. And she was like 13 or 14 at that time.
Oh, God. He's just an old soul in such a hippie family.
Yeah, very cool. So the, like, on your credits, Santa Barbara, because some reason they don't have them sometimes like that on IMDb. It doesn't work out. Like, I think it's after a certain amount of time they're like, but the first one you have on here, like 91, if you say that around 91, 92 is when you started connecting with that guy, like everything took off like right away. Because all in that year you have like Dream On, Northern Exposure, Reasonable Doubts, Martial Law 2. So like, that's a busy year, right?
It was busy.
Sort of right out of the gate.
That was like, and there's something about you, by association of being with a good team, and I can't say like, oh, I was the best actress for it, but somehow I also feel that I was with a good talent agency, so they know there's so many elements to hiring an actor and having them show up and having their team not screw you over, and how your billing's going to go, and the whole payment, and it's not just you. Like, when you get hired, they're hiring, your agent and your manager. And so I just think that it's the more you're surrounded by a professional company, that's another point in your corner. So it was very cool to be with such a respectable team. And I remember at one point my agent said to me, or I think I said to him, I said, why do you guys like me so much? Like, I'm not some superstar, I know, because they wanted to take me to lunch, and I'm like, you want to lunch with me? And he goes, you're available. You're a professional, and you make yourself available. And I remember thinking, well, who wouldn't, cut to 15 years. My daughter's like, I've got a daughter. She's grown up. I'm busy. I now have a different agency, and I find myself like, yeah, you've got an audition at Paramount for a CSI. And I'm like, oh, like I roll my eyes, right?
Yeah.
Or I've got this trip where, I'm working on my roof, or I'm redesigning my,
Yeah.
And so I start to go, I'm like, oh, that's what these agents are talking about, when I'd have to call and cancel last minute. And an agent puts in a lot of work to get you that audition. They put all their professionalism on the line. They pitch, she might be too pretty. No, trust me, she's earthy. She's too young, or she's too old. No, they do their pitch, And when you get a yes and they call you to say, I got you an appointment, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be seeing my kid's school play.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that for many years. And then life starts to creep in, and it becomes more of a juggling act. So
at least your excuses were because they were like legit, but there's obviously, I'm sure he had other actors and actresses that were not showing up because they were out too much or just wanted or go off the grid for a while. So no, that you have to be available. And then one thing when I've talked to like casting directors or even directors that use like a lot of the same actors, not even maybe not the main stars, but the behind people, and casting directors do the same. They know like, hey, you know what? Denise is going to show up. She's going to do what she needs to do. And we won't have to worry about anything, because that's the last thing. Like, you direct it. That's the last thing you want to worry about. Is an actor going to show up? They're going to do it?
I hadn't thought of that until I got more into this. And there's so many moving parts that you can't, when actors will be like, God, there's such nepotism, you'll see like Vince Vaughn or, like whatever, like certain, or Ben Stiller or Will Ferrell. You'll see these like same gang of guys, and it's like they can trust them. And plus it's fun. It's fun to work with friends, but there's this trust factor in a team, and you got to get in there. And I tell actors that it's okay if you don't get the audition from that casting director, but do establish some sort of relationship. Don't just do the audition. Notice something, like if it's on video like this, like if you were an actor and I was auditioning you, I don't have much going on around me, but I do have a picture there of Haiti. And for you to bring up something about it would engage us in a conversation. And I would talk about when I went there to volunteer with the military, and you would like have something then cool. And then you'd be like, all right, hey, thanks for the audition. Boom. And you might have said something like, oh, you used to be in the military. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, right. That's right, Doug. Wow, Doug was in the fucking military. Well, he wasn't good for that part, but I got this, Yeah. So it's really, and once you get to audition for them several times, then you're connected. Sometimes it's the kiss of death to book the audition on the first time, and you never really establish this relationship. So I always like to, inspire actors that it's okay if you didn't get it on the first one. They're getting to know you, and the more you're around that familiarness, they get to see other angles of you, and then they can go to bat for you.
So like auditioning wise, do you remember like your early, obviously you're doing all the auditioning on your own, but do you remember like the first time you landed like a role that you were like, oh my God, I can, because obviously you had a passion because this is something you wanted to do, went to school for it, but I'm sure there's always like something in the back of your head until you are like, quote unquote, like being successful at it. Was it like getting like a movie like Martial Law 2 or like getting like Subspecies?
Well, those were super exciting. I mean, the first thing that I will say, that the one that's not credited, the Santa Barbara one, did blow my mind, because I did have to go to NBC Studios, and I'd never gone in there. And I was like raised in California. And now here I am, 22 years old, and I'm driving in there, and it was, from an audition from the paper, like not even an agent. So that just blew my mind. And I was so afraid doing that role. I replaced a girl who had left, so they still had an episode or two. And I was like in a tennis, having lunch, and I just finished playing tennis, and I was this debutante, and I'm holding a champagne glass. The champagne glass, I was so scared it was shaking, and I have to and I had to like use it in the scene. I was literally shaking, because you're around, it's worse on a soap opera because you're around these professionals. And then of course, years later, I wind up getting on a soap opera, and you just become that family member. But when you're not the family member, you're the outsider, and it's your first job. Oh, dry mouths, all that. But boy, when that thing aired, I'd say about 80% of Long Island saw that episode.
That's cool.
Because all my Italian fans, they made VHSs, they mailed them all around.
That's
My
really
daughter,
cool.
my granddaughter's an actress. I mean, it was fantastic. That is one of the funnest parts, is having excitable family members that get to just get so excited. Like, I've done a lot of commercials, and commercials are almost even more fun. Well, they make more money.
Yeah.
But they catch you by surprise, right? I would always have friends saying, "Oh, I went back east to, for Christmas, and I saw you on TV." It's usually when our friends are like leaving town or going, I was in a hotel room and I turned the TV on, and it's fun to sort of surprise different friends with your face on TV. I don't know how to explain it. I don't.
Yeah.
But the Subspecies audition was like, I really went like acting class on that one. I probably did things that you probably shouldn't do on a professional audition, but I had already auditioned for a full moon film, and I knew they were quirky and they weren't a big studio. I'd gone to Paramount, and let's see, no, I hadn't auditioned yet for that. What was it? RoboCop? What was the one? Sylvester Stallone and
Demolition Man?
Demolition Man. Yeah, I still have that script. I had a callback for that. Sandra Bullock got it, but
wow.
But I had read for that part, and but that was after Subspecies. So anyway, so I'm reading for these kind of parts, and I knew that this one wasn't a huge studio, and somehow I just felt like that you could almost entertain the lower studios you could push the creativity a little bit more, and so I brought a little rock, like a little stone, a little bloodstone, and I put some lipstick on the back of my neck, and I had this little stone, and so I'm doing this scene, and it's one of the scenes that I think my sister, and you can't come, look at me, and then it sort of, one of the scenes and segues into Radu, and the night is coming, and something, and I let him bite me, and then I pull away, and I see the blood. And he says, "You must drink from the bloodstone." And then I grab it. And anyway, so there was some action. And to be honest, you could feel like an idiot doing that in a room. You're just standing there, and there's three people sitting on a chair with their arms crossed. And you're trying to create this gothic world of make-believe, of a vamp. It's different than if it was, "Honey, you cheated on me and I want a divorce. Okay. I saw her underwear in the sheets. You're out." Like, you could say that anywhere, but this vampire world, your head has to really be in it. It's a little next level make believe. So, I put the lipstick there, and when, I think, and Honors was actually in the room for the callback, and he came, so he walks close, and I just put my hand there, and when I pulled it away, it was all red. And I just wanted that little help for me to believe that I just got bit. And then this little stone, which I had like in my pocket, and it was just a little crystal, and it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
Later. So those little tiny things sometimes, in an audition, you never bring guns. I've even pointed, even if I point my finger, I never point it at the casting director.
Yeah.
Like if it's something, and I don't even want to point my finger at someone, because it's, you're right. You don't want that casting director to feel in any way threatened. So with that audition was really fun to just, at the very least, 9.9 times out of 10, you leave that room, and the only thing you've gained is an ability to entertain someone for 5 minutes. So 100% of the time, you've got to make that 5 minutes extremely entertaining.
Since that worked, did it make you, like, even though you said like maybe this is something you could do with the lower studios, did you ever try anything like that afterwards? Because that worked.
You have good questions.
Because I love audition stories. Like one of my people that listen to this podcast, I always, whenever I talk to auditions about with actors or actresses, my favorite story ever, I'm sure you heard it, Danny DeVito, when he got Taxi.
Yeah. Yeah, he takes
walked
this
in.
and he's like, who wrote this piece of shit? And he throws it down.
Yeah, and he leaves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like those are, again, no matter what, even like you said before about the picture in the background, if you're doing like a Zoom for an audition or something, like even if they didn't like him for that role, because obviously he was born for that role.
Yeah.
Like, but even if he wasn't, whatever next project that director or producer was working on, they would think of a role just to get him into it, because 100%. Just that story's unreal.
Yeah. There was a casting director that said to me, he used to be my agent for many years at LA Talent, LA Models, and then he's been a casting director. His name is Jeff Hardwick. And he said, when I see an actor and after the reading is done, I only want to be thinking one of two things. Either that was brilliant or what the fuck was that? He said, but anything in the middle is forgettable. Yeah. It's just safe and forgettable. And that gave me a little more courage too. And that, of course, was after, not of course, but it was after the vampire one, because I think he was my commercial agent at the time. But it underscored the fact that you do have to do that. You hear that all the time. Make a strong choice. Gotta make a strong choice. What the fuck does a strong choice mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the craft. The craft of an actor, and a strong choice doesn't have to be loud, and it doesn't have to have words. It doesn't have to have any wavelength, or it could have all of those. But I did an audition just a few weeks ago for a film that I did get called The Exorcists by Asylum. By Asylum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. And it's directed by a friend of mine. I was in one of his very first films. I don't even know if it's on my resume. It's called The Monster Man. And it might be on my IMDb.
I think it is on there, yeah.
Okay. He was 19 at the time. He's 42 now.
Wow.
And he was just this young kid. And I was in LA. He was in Florida. And he offered me like $2,000 to come out for the weekend. And I was like, sure. And it was the only time I ever did a non-union film. And there was just something about him. And so I did this little film. And it had Conrad, what's his name? Oh, my God, from Plan 9 from Outer Space. Conrad Brooks?
Maybe. I think that might be it.
Some Scream Queen types. Oh,
yeah, Linnea Quigley's in it, right?
Quigley. Yeah. Anyway, then like 3 years later, or 2 years later, I wind up getting on Young and Restless, and I'm on that. And then I get this opportunity to be in this film, but I decided to direct it and make it union. So, and that's where I hired Jeffrey Lewis in it, and a bunch of my, friends, actors, some people I met at conventions. And I had this guy, Jose Prendes, help me make the script a little more interesting. So he flew out and helped me do that. And then he wound up staying in LA and did some work with the Sharknado people and did sort of his own shark film thing. And so now he just directed, and it has Doug Bradley, Pinhead.
Cool. Yes.
Yep. So Doug Bradley stars in it. And I star in it with him. But so on the audition, awesome. It's a nun who turns into a demon. And so the first half was just the very nice nun audition. And then the second one where she was a demon. And so I do the audition. I text it to him for notes before I text it to the casting director. And I should probably read it. He said, oh, God. I mean, it's so far back. Oh, wait, Jose Mendez. And this is I can show you this is
yeah.
Whoa. Got the right. Just another
That's frightening.
Right.
Yeah.
So the film looks, we're in this great mausoleum. Don't mess with me. It's just fantastic locations. So we and there's Doug Bradley. He plays.
Cool. He's awesome.
It's full of class. But he said, he goes, I don't want you, like, don't chew up the scenery so much. What did he say? Don't you, can we talk tomorrow? Thank you. I think, I had a question. That's my flight. Yeah. He said, don't chew up the scenery so much. Think of Radu, but not so much his voice. After I took his notes, he said
nice.
that.
A little Leo clapping.
The note was, okay, here it is. Can you redo the Crazy Caroline? A bit more subtle, no accent. I didn't even know I was doing an accent. I'm still in part 5 of Subspecies. Quiet is creepier, not so broad, and mustache twirling. You see what I mean? He said, not so broad and mustache twirling. And he said, honestly, think Radu when he's quiet and menacing, but don't do his voice.
Wow.
Isn't that it was just, I just loved how specific he was. He could have kept out the mustache twirling, but that's okay. Yeah. So then I did it, and he's awesome, and that was what he said. Nice. So, and then I wound up he had to send it through the producers. So, but that it's like you and you've got to go huge with it, and I'm glad, because even on set I made some bolder choices, which he loved. So you do have to be willing to have someone say, you did too much. You were too much, because there's nothing, you can always bring it down, and that's something that's a very theatrical thing, of being able to bring it down. So I think I did what my casting director friend said, either what the fuck was that, or that.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
No, I know. You have to be memorable, No, I love auditions. I would love a documentary on that. Just have actors talk about auditions. I always forget that whenever I talk to people, but this one guy, one quick story. This guy, Gregory S. Cummings, big time character actor. He's been in a million things. He was recently on Bosch. He's Mac's dad on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And he always plays a bad guy. He's a great bad guy. He's in Cliffhanger. He's one of the henchmen of John Lithgow. But anyway, so he told me a fun thing he does, and I've never heard anybody mention this, and I've talked to other bad guys that interview for bad guy roles. He takes out all the periods and the commas and the exclamation points, because he knows that whoever's he's going to read it for has heard somebody do that sort of cadence. So he says that he's like a ticking time bomb, and then he'll add things in a different point. He'll use the same words, but exactly how he wants to put in the commas or the exclamation points. He told me a funny story. It was a very B movie, and it was opposite Robert Zadar. I forget the name of the movie. It was a really hard movie to find. It's from 1990 or 91. But anyway, Greg showed up to the audition and dressed 2 different ways. He did his nice normal guy, and then he did his slick back hair, and he blacked up his goatee, and he went under 2 different names just so they wouldn't associate it with each other. And he got 2 different phone calls, and he got the role for both parts. But then he had to tell them hey, they're both Greg. So he ended up taking the hero role. And then I think either Zadar got casted, or he was going to play Zadar's henchman in the movie. But that's a good segue to Dr. Awesome. Spangle. Yeah. Oh no,
Dr. Spangle.
Dr. Spangle. Oh
my gosh,
so much fun.
That director, literally would give, there were a couple of the actors on the set. I feel most of them have passed away, but I think, let's see, no, Brian James, maybe it was Brian James. He would give them line readings because a couple of the actors just didn't want to take the time to memorize anything. And so the director literally would say, we've got to get out of here. And then the actor's like, we've got to get out of here. And then the like, the troops are coming. And then the actor's like, the troops are coming, and they do it their own way. And, but I just remembered sitting in these scenes, and first I have to hear the director say the line to the actor, and then I have to wait for the actor to say the line to me. And I had mine memorized, and I was like, this is amazing. I just thought, oh, is this what happens when you become an old time star?
That or the old, like, wearing the lines on your, I forgot what big time actor it was or what scene it was, but there's one that, I think Robert Duvall wore I think it was like, not the Godfather. Was it the Godfather? Yeah.
If you say Marlon Brando had he was not good with the memorizing. He had things in his ear, that little speakers. And in fact, someone, it was Doug Bradley on this set told us a whole Brando story, because there's a lot of big speeches in this Exorcist movie. And one of our co-stars, it was just speech after speech, and we were like, can we write them and put them in places? And it was schedule. And he said, he goes, the reason why Brando would talk, because he was pointing to where he was reading, because they'd move the lines and get the next thing. And it was more because of where the cards were.
That's great. Yeah. I get why people do it. Like, I've heard stories about Eric Roberts doing it, but he's getting flown out to do a movie and they're paying him to be there on set for a day. And then he's probably flying the next day to go somewhere else. So I get it. If they write the lines on the wall or something, whatever you got to do to get the scene, like even this. And I think the movie is so wild. And I think what's so great about it, it's very rare that the sequel can capture the campiness of the first one. Like, the first one obviously has Piper. Right. But the second one is just so, I think it jumps the shark even more. Like, the songs, the soundtrack in it, the song that is about, like, frogs, it has actual lines when the frogs are, like, driving down the road and you're like, what is going on? What's fun?
Remember the music. I don't think I've seen it since like 1997.
It's free on YouTube, so you can check it out. But no, there is like in the scenes, there's like a frog band in one scene with like all these frog people.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember it was such a fun day on the Jeep. We were at it was like the Paramount Western Ranch. Like, we were at such a, it was a set that carried such clout of old time Hollywood class. And here we were doing these froggy films, and, what's his name? Lou Ferrigno.
Oh my God. Yes.
Sweetest guy. I've got this picture of me doing his makeup. He was the set matchmaker. He just wanted everyone to be in love, So he would try and set up, okay, which makeup artist wasn't seeing someone and which lighting guy was single. And he just was a darling to work with.
That's awesome. How long does it, for a movie like that? Like, I don't know what the budget was, but like 4 weeks to shoot that whole movie?
Oh, I think that movie was probably 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
That was like 3 weeks. This Exorcists that we just did was 7 days, and that was crazy. The Blood Rise that we did in Serbia, that was 4 weeks. Yeah.
So you're kind of used to it. So like the 7-day thing, maybe for I don't want to use the term like regular actor, like somebody that just does mostly like regular TV, regular film. But since you did have the chance to like cut your teeth doing like soaps, like I've talked to people, like when it comes to soaps, it is like I don't want to say it's like military school, but you're
Well,
really like
it is.
it's very regimented. Like, hey, we want our summers off. We want to get out of here. So it was a lot of like, I talked to Sean Kanan and he was telling me like how quick it was. Like in the beginning, he was like, oh my God, I don't think I could do this. Because everybody's so good and they know, like, they know their lines, you know?
They do. They are so good. Like when I was on it, they would fax you your edits, anything that got cut, lines that would get changed the day before. You'd get your scripts a few days before, and then you'd get the faxes, although now they're emails. And I would just pray that like lines were cut. As it was coming out of the machine, I would just pray for the exes. Because it's also what makes it a little bit easier is there's a lot of repetitiveness. So on Monday you're telling your neighbor, yep, Johnny's a little sick, we're going to have to take him to the doctor, and and then on Tuesday then you'll tell the same story to the school teacher, yeah, Johnny's a little sick, so there's a repetitiveness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a machine. And what's great is it's very 9 to 5 or 7 to 5, unless it's like some day where it's a big wedding or a big funeral or something. Otherwise it's very, very 9 to 5. It's a lovely way to make a living and have a life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have so many people that are in like horror sci-fi that end up on soaps for long, like Kevin was on for a long time. Barbara Crampton was on it for a long time. Like so many people did
Brad
all
Dew,
these other like
Really? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's how he literally like still gets called back to General Hospital. Google right there the name Caesar Faison. That's his character, Caesar. I think it's just CESAR, and then Faison, FAISON. And that character,
yeah, I see it. Yeah. Yeah. Duration 90 to 92, 99 to 2000, 2012 to 2014. And then in 2018, they brought him back.
First appearance was 1990. And an actor named Michael Watson that was on General Hospital with him got the part of Stefan for Subspecies 1, the handsome half brother who the Michelle character falls in love with, and they were trying to find the monster. And so Michael Watson was the one that said, "Hey, you should. I want you to meet my co-star on my soap opera." So that's how he got it.
That's really funny. Yeah, soaps, you're never dead, even if you might think you're dead.
They're like vampire films. We're also never dead.
Are. I know. But soaps, it's so funny. It's like, oh yeah, 15 years ago they died in a jet ski accident, but they've actually been still living, and then they'll bring them back. It's so cool.
The otters saved them.
But yeah, so just to go with the sequel theme more, obviously like Frogtown 2, then you had Subspecies 2, and then another really cool sequel because I love Don the Dragon Wilson. I love Steve James. Bloodfist V. Like, what a funky movie. And I love Steve James. That's like one of his last films now.
Yeah. I mean, I just remembered him passing not long after that. It was such a surprise. He was not an old gentleman at all. That was super fun. I mean, Don was just, we keep in touch, like every other day on the Facebook. Cool. It's so nice to keep in touch with someone like that. And he's just always he's just so complimentary and so enthusiastic over everything I've been doing. And
that's awesome.
I have a scene in that where I'm driving down Venice, and it was a car driving scene, and I'm driving him. I can't remember. I guess, I don't know. I'm like hooker / NSA agent, and like you do. And so there's a camera mounted on my window and a camera mounted on his window for, like blah, 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 blah. So your car is extra wide, right? And in the back seat is the microphone script person. They lay down. And so you do a take, and you've got a police escort as you're going down the street. You just get these police escorts. It's a lot of money. It was Roger Corman films, so they didn't have tons of cash, so you get a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So the director is on walkie-talkie, and the sound person's in there, or maybe he was in the back too with her. He was either on walkie or him. So we did the scene, and I'm supposed to go, blah blah blah. No, you're blah blah. No, blah blah blah. And then I turn. I make a right turn, and then it's sort of one other line, and it fades out. So we came back around, and we do the scene again, and we're going. And the director says, "Do another take." So the light turns green, or as I was pulling up to it, and I just kept going. But the cop car and the motorcycle thought that I was going to be turning, because that's what he saw the action was. So it's green, and he thinks I'm turning right. So he starts turning, and I'm going. So I wind up like he winds up T-boning me, and I'm in the middle of acting, and I'm like, no, you're supposed, what? Oh shit. The sound guy actually at lunch let me put the headphones on me and let me hear the whole take. And then I get out of the car, and the officer is like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Are you okay?" Like, I've never had a police officer apologize to me for me, like ramming into him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like right in the beginning. That's such a good move. It's always good whenever you see Steve James, because he's like a big time like canon film badass, whether it be like the American Ninja movies. Yeah. But it's always cool when he would be like he's like at the jazz club in Weird Science, and then he's in Weekend at Bernie's too. And I like seeing him in a role like this, like totally different to see him like that. So now that you worked, because I don't think you've talked to a lot of people that work for both like the bands and Corman, is there like a big difference in the way, I'm not saying how they would spend money, but
yeah, see, another good question. Like, no one's ever asked me that. Yeah, because
they're kind of one and the same when you think about like that type of filmmaking,
right? Like you got that one dude, and he really crafts like a little bit of a machine. They just have this studio machine. They do things for a lower budget. Corman, I guess his stuff was, I mean, really, I guess the big difference was more in their genres. Corman's were a little more action, and Charlie's was a little more sci-fi fantasy. Right? Is that, I mean, you probably know.
No, that's right. Before. Yeah. No, they tried to do different, and I have a couple of them. Oh, I have one of the movies right here. It's so funny because I was talking to a kid a few weeks ago on his podcast, because he was talking about like Full Moon. So I was like, I remember like this Full Moon.
Scooted over a bit. Scoot. Yeah. Oh, Pet Shop. Oh my God.
So for like 5 years, they had Moonbeam Entertainment, which is like family movies. So they did like Pre-Hysteria, which is actually a pretty good movie. Yeah. And they tried that. And then Corman did the same thing. Corman obviously had like the action movies, but he would like let Jim Wynorski do whatever type of horror movie. And then he would do the family. He had a bunch of family movies too that were pretty good. Yeah. One of Jennifer Loves You It's first movies was a Corman movie.
Yeah.
Many. But that's interesting, because those are two guys, one and the same. Like, I wouldn't even put like a Lloyd Kaufman in that same realm, because he's more of like really bootstraps, guerrilla filmmaking. Hey, let's sleep on the floor, and then I'm sure he's making good money.
The both Charlie and Ron, like a lot of people, when I got that Subspecies film, they're like, "Did you get paid?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was also at the William Morris agency at the time, and they made sure to collect our weekly checks, because we were in Romania for 3 months shooting that. We shot part 2 and part 3 back to back.
They loved Romania during that era of Full Moon. They were all over there for most of their movies. They shot over there, even ones that like they did a movie called Oblivion around that time, and they were like, you know what, fine, we'll go over there and build a Western set. And Sam Irvin, the director, he was just over there, and the set's still there to this day.
Oh,
it's
really?
Pretty cool. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And what's ridiculous, they used it in other shows and movies. So it was like this little dinky set. And he said, I forgot what show it was. It was actually a big name show, like a sci-fi show in the late 90s. They didn't change the name of the bar, which was Miss Kitty's Bar. Julie Newmar was in it. So they had her. She made so many Catwoman puns in the movie, but her place was Miss Kitty's Saloon. And then they left that in maybe by accident, or they just didn't want to change it or didn't think anybody noticed it. But that's a cool thing about filmmaking, especially like, not only are you acting, you're working, you're seeing a country that, not saying you never want to go to Romania. I don't want anybody that's Romanian listening to this and get upset with me, but that's cool that you have a reason to go there.
Oh, 1000%, and it was super raw then. It was, we had the sheep in the road and like literally I'd have to get out and herd them out of the way, or we wouldn't have water because the water supply didn't make it over from Germany, and the buildings were full of bullet holes from where you could see where, Ceausescu was and his military shooting the people. And, just little gypsy kids coming over and finding ways to take your money. And I know, but it was great because it was so gothically dark that it was easy to get into that world, because for me, playing a character who turns into a vampire, I was like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of life experience with that, but I could imagine going across to another dark country and getting addicted to drugs, and having some dude who's my pimp. And then my sister comes to see me and I'm completely horrified and embarrassed at this addiction that I have. And that made it easier or more human to play that,
You have to find a reason, you have to mentally go there, like that's like the name of the game for anything.
Yeah.
So Denise, this has been great. Two more things I want to ask you. One is one movie that you were in. It's so funny. Sometimes there's these movies that for some reason they just don't get releases, or like big release that you know about. But I think it wasn't Invasion was a series. Was it Phoenix? One of these movies had like Rebecca Gayheart and...
Okay, Robin Cook's Invasion was a movie of the week.
Oh, okay.
Robin Cook's Invasion. So that was an NBC movie of the week because director, Armand Mastroianni, he directed me in Northern Exposure. No, not Northern Exposure. Reasonable Doubts.
Oh, cool.
He's this great Italian director, and he loved what I did for him in Reasonable Doubts. And then when he did, I worked with him 3 times. A movie of the week with, I don't even know if it's on my resume, with, I played the stenographer, Brooke Shields. Is there anything that you see in there with Brooke Shields?
What year-ish? There's Dark Vengeance.
Oh, and Quinn. Oh God, Steve. Oh. Anyway, he directed that. And then he directed this, Robin Cook's Invasion. And I get to play this, waitress friend of Rebecca Gayheart's. And then I turn into, a psycho. And they did a special effect on the eyes. So they didn't put any contacts in, but they just said, you're going to go around to the back of the restaurant and then you do your scene, which is, all of them are at the front. The rest are here with me. And then he said, and then hold, because they're going to do a digital thing in post. And so since I had just come off of the vampire thing, I know that Ted, the director, just loved the vampire thing of the head down, eyes up. Like that was the thing. Like just having your head like that just wasn't as, it just didn't, the eyes weren't as strong as when you go down. He just liked the down. So when I got on the phone and I did although it was a old fashioned phone, I said, the others are around the front, but the rest are here with me. And I did that thing. And when I heard him say, cut, oh, that's great. That's great. And then when I saw the final, like it was just this nice, still big eyes that they could do the post production in, and yeah, like that's part. It's so fun knowing all the elements to making a film because it just helps you to do things better. In part 2 at the end where I'm being pulled by Mummy, the director wanted these shadows on the wall of the cave as the scene is playing out at the very end, and all you're seeing are the shadows of her hands. So I'm like making sure to dance them, and the director told me what to do. Well, on this new Exorcist film, I slit someone's throat, and he comes to hug me, basically to forgive me. He's a priest, and I'm like, get off of me, get, and he's basically just trying to stop me from getting the other people. And so I use that same technique of the long, and I've got my white eyes on, and he's on top of me, and because I know how great and freaky that movement, as opposed to small hands,
Yeah.
It's just more, so it's fun. It's the more you do, the more you watch it. And, I don't watch it of like, oh, did I look good? Did I look pretty? No. Was I believable? Was I horrific? That's it.
Yeah, it's cool. You could take it and use it again all those years later. You knew that it worked on Subspecies. So you're like, hey, let me do it when I'm doing it on Invasion.
All these things.
That's cool. No, it's always fun that you never, like, I would never have known about this show. Like, that's pretty neat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And good people, like, before, like, Luke Perry, that was still on, right? Yeah. 90210 was still on in 97.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
He was another sweetheart. He liked matchmaking people, wanted everyone to like
He did,
him. Yeah. They were all very happy that the two of them, Rebecca and Luke, they were just like, my husband was on tour with his band. He was on tour with, I think, Matchbox 20. And we filmed that in Arizona. And he coincidentally was in Arizona, his band Chalk Farm with Matchbox 20. And so after filming, I went there. And so they were like, oh my God, you're going to surprise your husband in a rock band. You're so in love, and it was so sweet to have these two celebrities just be so interested in me and my life, and that's just the greatest thing about just, the bigger the celebrity, so many times I've found them to be just even more interested in you. And that's the best way to be in any scene, is when you care more about your actor doing really well, the co-actor in your scene. When you really want to make them look good, that's when you'll look the best, Yeah.
No, that's great. Wait, your husband was in a band? Is he still in a band?
Well, now he's in a different band called Rusty Truck. They actually just played the Grand Ole Opry last month.
Wow, nice.
Sheryl Crow sang with them for 2 songs.
Whoa.
So that's cool.
Is that how you met him? Like seeing him play in LA?
No, I met him waitressing when I was 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
In Cafe 50s in Sherman Oaks. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see.
That's neat. That's pretty cool. You were able to see him then. And what was the band that he was opening up for Matchbox 20?
Yeah, his band was called Chalk Farm.
Chalk Farm.
Chalk Farm. They had a hit called Lie on Lie. That was like their big MTV hit. And
very cool.
On airplanes.
I'll check it out later. Oh, I see it. Michael Duff. Nice. I'll have to check that out later. So Denise, here's my last question I always like to ask people is, obviously when you're like in the moment, like when you're on your first set or in your first role, did you keep any like mementos? Obviously you mentioned you have your Demolition Man script, which is pretty cool. Is there any other like keepsakes, memorabilia, like wardrobe that you kept over the years?
I do have, and still wear after many years, I have a lot of my Young and Restless clothing.
Nice.
She was a hippie chick. And the Bloodstone was sort of lost. I see another good question. I bought a lot of things when I was in Romania, and I saved, like I bought plaques, and I bought, and I wound up selling many of them at autograph conventions.
Oh, cool.
A lot of artwork and stuff that I would bring in and just a few years ago. But one thing that I've saved on the is I've always saved my fangs. I have my fangs from 1992. They've yellowed, and I have my fangs from the latest one.
Sweet.
From the latest one. So fangs, I guess that's them. I'm trying to think of other. Oh, I have I've saved the contact lenses from this new demon film.
Nice.
The Exorcists. It's Exorcist, but it's plural. And there's going to be like a big budgeted Exorcist film being filmed right now.
Yeah, what's his name's doing it? Is it David Gordon Green, who did the Halloween movies?
Yeah,
I think he got those movies next. Yeah.
And so Asylum wanted to get in on that wave.
Smart.
And this is it's really great. It's the same. It's a young girl. She's possessed. It's in this, it all takes place in a church. Yeah. So I saved my contact lenses from that.
Nice. That's a smart thing to do. Asylum can look at like what Roger Corman would do, or I'm sure some of the Charlie Band movies were like, hey, what's coming out next year in the trades? It's like, this movie about, it's like, all right, we're going to do that 6 months before. And then sometimes it works, and then.
I think it's smart because people are like clicking around and, I have the crazy high heels from, I wore them in the film I directed in the Vampire Resurrection.
Oh, cool.
But I got them, but they were my heels in Bloodfist V when she was like the hooker with those they were like funky wood with a velvet leopard thing. And I remembered I was supposed to do like this roundhouse kick. And I remember practicing it. And my actress friend, Julie Michaels, who's, was in Roadhouse as an actress and she's a stuntwoman too. She trained me up on it. And then I get to the set. We went out to Long Beach and it was the big ending fight scene. And then the director was like, I don't want you like taking the last kick from, it's Dawn the Dragon Wilson. So it was like, somehow I think I did something with a knife instead, but I practiced it in these crazy high heels doing this kick. But I think it's better that let Dawn have it. Yeah. And I love those movies because in the before you even see like the name of the movie or anything, it says Dawn the Dragon Wilson, 14-time champ. Like that's the first thing that comes up. But lest we forget.
Yes. But so no, this has been great, Denice. I'm happy we connected, and this was a lot of fun. And I'm glad I asked you questions that you haven't heard before, because that's the worst.
Well, yes,
maybe not for you. No, I know.
You always have a great fast answer, but it's nice. I like my synapses to be snapped around in other directions. Yeah. Trophy heads. Did you ever see trophy heads?
No.
Okay, no. Write that fucking thing down. Trophy heads. So what Charlie did was he took a bunch of his actresses from his films, like Brink Stevens and myself, and he kind of wrote a like real life storyline about characters we've played in his films, and the writer took stuff from our real life, and so I play Denice. Every actor plays themselves, and we all one by one get kidnapped by a fan who puts us down in his basement. And so it's like 5 12-minute little shorts. Cool. So each actress or 2 actresses. So I'm with this gal, Jackie Lavelle.
Oh, I'm sure I know if I saw her. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the. Anyway, but I ad-libbed a bit on mine, and I had said something about well, how many sequels have you done? We had this sort of sequel thing, and I'm like, well, I've never died in my sequels,
Yeah. When'd that come out?
I think it came out maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, cool. I got to check it out.
Yeah. And I probably get the most emails about that particular film being one of the funniest things that I've done. And it's cool. It was pure fun because I'm playing myself, where she's like, we're trying to get out. And I'm like, I can't get it. It's carpal tunnel. And then I ad-lib, all the autographs I give, So it's like actresses playing themselves with a fan who's trying to kidnap us. It's actually
that's a good story.
Yeah,
that's a good idea, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for staying up late with me, Denise. It's been great.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
So isn't that crazy? So the thing that Luke Perry and Lou Ferrigno have in common, they were playing matchmaker on set. Isn't that amazing? They're like, hey, let's who's single? Oh, you two are both single. You guys are great. You guys should start dating. Isn't that amazing? And just so many stories. I love that. So many questions that I asked her, she was like, yeah, that's a great question. Is this true? Like Charles Band and Roger Corman are kind of parallel to each other, different genres, but it's interesting to hear like how they shoot because I feel like it's pretty similar. But yeah, Denice was great. I love talking to her. So much fun. Just great vibes. You know, I love when I can actually, it's less of an interview, more of a conversation. And that's what it was with Denice. So if you're listening to this, Denice, thank you so much. And so your homework, Bloodfist V. So you can listen to the review first, then watch the movie or watch before, however you want to do it. But I want to see if you agree with our theories about the twist at the end of the movie. I still don't. I might have to just email Denice and really get the lowdown on if we're right or not. I think we are, but tell us, you know. So yeah, that's your homework. It's free on YouTube. And don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night, guys.